Welcome back to another TERF Talk Down Under. I'm Stassja and this is Ange.
Hi.
How are you, Ange?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, look, I've been okay up until yesterday. It was sort of a double whammy with the International Olympics Committee's new guidelines. We'll talk about that in a bit. And that combined with in the UK, the House of Lords debated whether rapists should be allowed to be housed in women's prisons. And the outcome was, yes, it's perfectly fine to put rapists in women's prisons. That just really knocked me for six.
It's gaslighting.
It is. It is.
It is. It's a horrific betrayal of women. But I think that for me, the most disturbing thing about it is that it is a lie. It is gaslighting to say that men and women are exactly the same. It's a terrifying lie.
Yeah. It's incomprehensible to me how people reach this conclusion that that's okay.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on with society?
I don't understand it. I think it's because the majority of people don't actually know that this stuff's being debated, or if they hear about it, they don't believe that the impacts are going to be as great as they actually are, because they're still talking about a hypothetical concept because it hasn't affected them. Most countries don't have self-identification. And they, most women or men aren't in prison where they're, being jailed with, male-bodied people. This stuff hasn't impacted yet. And that's the frightening thing, because people actually don't believe that it's real.
It's just crazy that, like I said, I just can't believe that it's even happening. It really does feel like some Orwellian dystopian thing going on here, and then there was a university in the UK that released some guidance around how to be a sex worker. I don't know if you've seen the movie Idiocracy.
No, I haven't.
It's a comedy. It's a cult classic, and it's set in this future where robots are running everything, so humans don't know how to do anything anymore. And the men all behave like jock wankers, and the women are mostly prostitutes.
Oh, yuck.
And when I watched that a couple of years ago, I was like, really? Is that the best they can do, is depict women as prostitutes? And now it's actually happening in real life with all this bullshit that sex work is real work, and it just blows my mind.
What blows my mind is that I'm like a tinfoil hat person. If someone had told me this stuff was happening 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. And now I hear myself saying things like, there's these financial vested interests, and, it's multinational corporations and their money exchanging hands that are, dehumanizing women and all this stuff. And I sound like I've gone mad, but that's actually what's happening. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yep. It's also watching The Handmaid's Tale. I only watched part of season 1, and I couldn't get on board with it, because I was like, there's no way that this could happen in the space of 5 years, that women would just submit to this kind of treatment of legalized rape. Like, no way. And now it's like this stuff is happening in society. It's like, it could happen. Maybe I should revisit The Handmaid's Tale.
Maybe. I think the book's probably a better option than the series. But the thing that terrifies me is the vast majority of people, mostly women, understand the dangers of sex work. They understand the dangers of men self-identifying into womanhood. But it's the young women that they're grooming. All of this stuff isn't targeted at us. It's targeted at our kids. It's targeted at teenagers. It's targeted at the next generation coming through, whose lives are completely commodified, particularly women. Their worth is in their bodies, either to be bought as for sex or to be bought for reproduction or to be put on billboards or whatever, or pornographied. I mean, you know, our currency, the only thing that the only resource that they're yet to exploit are our bodies. That's it. That's all they have left, or space, because every other thing on this planet has been exploited for profit. Our bodies are what is the only thing that, you know, that they have left.
Look, we've got a guest joining us today, and she's just in the waiting room. This is Anna from International Women's Day Brisbane Meanjin. Let's bring her in and have a chat. Hi,
there she is.
You just need to unmute your microphone and stream your video, Anna. Getting there.
Maybe she's gone to get a cup of tea. Got bored.
Oh,
there she is.
Hello, you two.
Welcome.
Hi, Anna.
Thank you very much. I must say it's a real honour to be on your program. I love TERF Talk back down under. I think it's just a really great program, and I must say that you two are two of my very favourite women involved in this struggle at the moment. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Honoured to have you here. And can I say congratulations on the new haircut? Looks awesome.
Thank you.
I shaved my head when I was about 18, 19, and I remember that feeling of the wind on your scalp.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's great. And you get up in the morning and you don't even have to brush it.
That's it. And congratulations also on a very successful street protest last Sunday.
Yes, thank you very much. It was our most successful one, counting the International Women's Day rally and march this year. It was our 5th public protest. So
awesome.
In addition to the IWD rally in March, we did a small street protest in April, one in June, one in September, and now this one in November. And we had good numbers. There were 16 of us, including 5 men, plus one 11-year-old boy who his mum had contacted me and said, you know, is it okay to bring him? And I said, well, I wouldn't, but it's up to you. And she brought him, and he was great. And one of the women said to me later that he told her things that she didn't know, and she's been involved in this quite closely. So, yeah, it was great. And the shoppers were, they didn't know the issues. They have no idea that the Queensland government intends to introduce sex self-identification legislation before the end of the year. And when we quickly explained it to them, you know, it's about men coming into women's change rooms and girls' fitting rooms, etc., they were on side. They said, oh, yeah, we're with you. Yeah. So all in all, it was really good.
I think that's the case. That's what I'm hearing. Most people, and it's been my experience as well, when you start talking about this stuff and actually getting into the nitty-gritty details of what it really means, that's when people are, like you said, shocked and can't believe that it's happening, and they're on side.
Yes.
I think it's only people that have, I don't know, studied gender studies at university or something that are the ones that are going to argue with you.
Yes, or at our protest in June, we were surprised because we had some abuse. I mean, we always get a bit of abuse, but generally it's from teenagers. But in June, it was from adults. But we found out later they were people who were at an ALP conference just 5 minutes away from where we were. We didn't know they were going to be there. And it came from them. They were people who I would say are not typical of rank and file Labour Party membership, but they were the people who go to the conferences and they called us transphobic bigots and things like that. I don't think they represent rank and file Labour Party members, because I know quite a few Labour Party members and they're on side with us. They won't come to our protests. They won't say anything on Facebook, but they're on side, and they need to be consulted with by the Labour Party leadership before they pass this legislation.
How are we going to get people to speak up, Anna? There's people out there who support us, but there's such a small minority of us that are willing to put our heads above the parapet and speak up about this stuff. So few people willing to come to protests. And the whole thing is that we need to raise awareness. How are we going to do it?
Look, I think one way is by doing in real life actions. And I know I go on about in real life action all the time, probably because I'm a second waver. And that's what we did then. We got out on the streets, we went to the rallies, we went to the meetings. And I think that if we keep, even the small group of us who are prepared to do it now, if we keep on doing it, more will come. And I'm reminded, and I often say to people, I wasn't involved in the protests against the American invasion of Vietnam in the very early days. I got involved in the 70s, but in the very early days, some people have told me the only people in Australia who opposed that invasion of Vietnam were a handful of communists and a handful of Christians. And over time, that grew until it became a mass movement. We can do the same. But the other thing, I think, is women like me who've retired, who have nothing to lose, need to let go of our fear. Because, you know, like for me, I've lost all the friends that I'm going to lose over this issue. And I have lost quite a few. And it was painful for a little while, but it passes, and I've made different friends. And I don't have a job. I did actually lose a very small retired social worker job because of being a TERF, because the social work profession sadly is captured.
Captured, yeah.
Yes, totally captured. So I did lose that little job, and I loved it. And it gave me a bit of extra money on top of the pension. So that was very nice too. But I don't have a full-time permanent job to lose. I don't have dependents. So, you know, I guess I would put a call out to women like me and men like me, retired women and men. We have nothing to lose, except you lose some face in the left. And I mean, really, that's such a small price to pay. I used to be involved in the left over many decades, and it became such an unpleasant place for me to continue to be involved in, because I defend women's sex-based rights, that I can no longer go to any left-wing events. And I don't miss it. I really don't miss it.
When did you first notice this change creeping in on the left? Did you have a peak trans moment, or no? Yeah.
The more I think about it now, the more I think the left has never been in support of women's sex-based rights.
No.
I thought the left was, because my primary area of activity of women's political activity over 40 years was abortion rights from the late 70s. And finally, we won decriminalisation in 2018. And the left was on side with that. You know, we were comrades in struggle. We organised the same rallies and the same street protests. And I always thought, they just need a bit better persuasion, a few more and stronger arguments, and they'll come on board with other things that affect women's position too. Yeah. But they never did. And so I think for all those years, in assuming that people on the left, especially the men on the left, assuming that they would come on board, I think I was wrong. I don't think they were ever going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
They support women's rights as much as but only women's rights that support men's rights. You
Yes.
know, men benefit from abortion. Men, all of the things that men seem to advocate for are things that they personally benefit from.
Yes. They would never get involved in men's violence against women campaigns or do work around rape and sexual assault, even sexual harassment in the workforce. You know, they dismissed issues like surrogacy and prostitution. They were gung-ho in favor of you know, free-for-all prostitution. So really, I don't think that left-wing men have ever, I mean, I was deluded for all those years.
I don't think you were deluded. I think particularly, you know, if you've got men in your life, I think you want to believe the best, you know, that they want the best for women. You want to believe that. But, you know, a lot of the time it's not necessarily true.
Yes, I think that's true. I really think that's true. In fact, a few weeks ago, I said to a friend of mine, we were having quite a deep conversation, and I said to her, I think that I held back from fully embracing feminism because of my heterosexuality.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
I can understand that.
Sleeping with the enemy.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
In a way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a bit about International Women's Day, Brisbane Meanjin. What activities and how do you get people involved? And yeah.
Okay. So 2022 will be the 5th feminist IWD rally and march in 5 years. So we began in 2018. We began because, see, as I aged, I stopped going to IWD. It wasn't something that was really part of my life. But in 2017, the IWD organisers asked me to speak because it was the middle of the abortion decrim campaign. So we were leading up to 2018 when we finally won. So 2017, they asked me to speak at the rally. And it was only then that I became aware that they'd been captured. The organisers of the IWD rally were reciting the trans women are women mantra and reducing womanhood to feelings in men's heads. And so I said to a few women after that, hey, this is our day, we need to take it back. And so we did. From 2018, we organised our own rally in March. Unfortunately, in 2018, it was disrupted by the trans ideologues and our march was taken over. And there was incitement to violence against us by Socialist Alliance in particular and a number of members of the Greens. They incited violence against us, and there would have been worse violence if it hadn't been for the police, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
So, you know, here's this woman from the 70s who always has seen the police as the enemy and still do in, you know, many ways. But if they hadn't been there that day, we would have been seriously hurt, I believe. So then 2019, 2020, 2021, again, we held our own rally, much smaller than the one in 2018, but that's okay. The trans ideologues didn't come near us, thank goodness. And for the last 2 years, so this is really my main contribution to the struggle to keep a feminist IWD rally going. And for the last 2 years, I've incorporated presentations as well. So in addition to, for next year, in addition to the rally in March, which will be on Saturday, the 5th of March, we will begin on Friday, the 4th of March, and we'll finish on Sunday, the 6th of March, and we'll have a range of presentations, and the focus is on activism. It's not a talk fest. And so I'm hoping that there will be presenters, both local presenters and women like your good selves will come from other states. And I'm really hopeful that the two of you will take the opportunity to deliver a TERF Talk back down under from Brisbane.
That'd be cool.
And yeah, I can't wait. And so the themes, the general themes that we'll cover, primarily, of course, the defence of women's sex-based rights, because that's under huge attack. And that includes the defence of lesbians' rights to same-sex attraction and same-sex relationships, which is under awful attack by the trans ideologues. We'll also cover related themes, surrogacy and adoption, prostitution, I hope, porn, men's violence against women, including domestic violence and rape and sexual assault. So covering a number of themes over a 3-day period. We'll make sure that there are plenty of opportunities for social gathering as well over dinners and breakfasts, because we all know that quite often the best feminist activism is planned over drink and food. So it'll be a vibrant, although small, 3-day weekend.
Fantastic, Anna.
Wow.
It's a huge I think. You go, Ange.
Back in 1990, I was involved in the protests against Joh Bjelke-Petersen's corrupt government, in which homosexual males were targeted by the police during AIDS. And I protested and was dragged into a van alongside some transsexual men who I shared a house with, fighting for their rights as gay men. So the irony that I'm coming back to Brisbane, where I used to live, on the side of women with trans people against me is just bizarre.
It is bizarre. Except, of course, we all know that so many so-called transgender and transsexual people are actually on our side. They don't want to take women's and girls and especially lesbians' rights away from us. They don't want to erase our rights or erase women as the sex class, but largely they don't speak up. And
true,
you know, it's the groups that are on the other side. Well, from where I am at the grassroots, the opposition to us comes primarily, of course, from big capital. This is a capitalist-funded, initiated movement. It comes from Western governments that have been captured. And it does come from left-wing men who've always hated women, but now feel quite enabled in vomiting their hatred of women, because now, jumping onto the trans wagon is a respectable way of saying women count for nothing. They don't warrant rights. Children are just, can be dismissed. And lesbian women in particular don't warrant rights.
I think from the left, it's definitely a pushback after Me Too. A lot of leftist men were on the defensive going, oh, no, I wouldn't do things like that, because they were accused of, improper conduct towards women. And I think, this is a pushback to that these men can jump on the trans bandwagon, and now they've got a way of saying, you don't deserve boundaries. We don't believe you. You don't have the right to consent. I think it's that simple, that these men have just jumped onto this as an excuse to fight back for us for calling them out.
Yes, I think that's true. Yeah. And I just wish that my left-wing feminist friends would, and I'm sure, perhaps over some time they would find their courage, because they know we're right. I mean, everyone knows that there are women and there are men, that human beings have two sexes, that the sexes are immutable. Everyone knows. It's just a pretense. And for so many left-wing feminist women, that their need to keep in good with their male comrades takes priority over everything. And for so long, the women's movement, you know, I mean, from the 90s, we saw the huge rise of individualist feminism, the promotion of prostitution and porn as empowerment, and the focus on individual stuff rather than collective analysis and collective action. And it really was taken over, I think, by individualist, very privileged women. And they're the ones who are most likely to embrace this gender identity ideology that's so harmful to us.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't help that, you know, Beyonce and people like Nicki Minaj are pushing that, and that's what kids are watching when they switch on MTV or you know, YouTube, whatever. They're being sent that message that, oh, it's great to have your tits out on TV. Like, that's empowering. It's just so upside down. I think it's a real indictment of where we are culturally as a result of social media, you know?
Yeah.
Look, we've just got to keep fighting, though. We'll get there.
We do. And I can't wait to see you two in Brisbane.
Likewise.
We'll be there.
So I might go now.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Wow, what a powerhouse.
It really is. You know, she does fundraising. I'll put a link in the description, but you can buy umbrellas and T-shirts and adult human female sashes. Her contribution to this is huge. Yeah. And just bringing together women for a feminist conference once a year. I mean, when else do women from interstate get to meet up and organise?
Yeah, that's right. I hope COVID stays away, but yeah, I'll be there with bells on.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
So,
something I thought of while Anna was speaking was in New South Wales, I think it was earlier this year, they run a rank and file women's labour conference. And at that conference this year, they decided to, one of the motions that they passed was to denounce TERFs, something along those lines. And that there will be, everyone in the Labor Party has to support trans people, otherwise they will root those people out of the party, get them out of the party. Like, just crazy. And I can't imagine how many Labor women were sitting there listening to that at the conference and just going, what the fuck? What the fuck's going on? You know?
See, they probably don't even know what TERF means, because I tell everyone it's telling everyone real facts. And the thing is that, you know, TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist, most of the people who people call TERFs aren't even radical feminists. Now, I'm a radical feminist, but most people I know are gender critical, and that's a completely different thing. And so the ridiculousness of anyone who's remotely gender critical getting that label, but the label itself generates such fear. And the fear is intentional because men want everyone to hate feminists. They want everybody to hate feminists. Not all men, obviously. But yeah, so, you know, to be able to put transphobes and feminists in the same slur is genius, because women will go, oh, I don't want to be part of that. And they don't want to have to, if they do self-describe as a feminist, they don't want to be walking around disclaiming and go, oh, but I'm not one of those feminists. So they drop the feminist and then they stop identifying with it. So other girls go, oh, I don't want to be identified as a feminist because someone might think I'm a TERF. And so the whole momentum behind women who centre women is gone. It's just, it's both ridiculous and cunningly brilliant.
I really view the word TERF, that's just the left's version of feminazi.
It is.
It really is. And, you know, God, we've had so many slurs thrown at us over the years. It's just become water off a duck's back. But we've embraced the word TERF in this in our YouTube channel. I was a bit early on. I was a bit, oh, should we, shouldn't we? And I know some women are against reclaiming it, but it's like the N word. Black people get to use it, white people don't. TERF, women get to use it, men don't, and neither do those lib femmes.
Yeah, well, I am a TERF. I'm trans exclusionary and a radical feminist, so I'm going to own it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see it as a negative thing. I don't hate trans people. I have trans people in my life. You know, I don't see it as all bad.
I remember getting in a comment war on a Greens senator's Facebook page ages ago, and some dude, like, all he was commenting, replying to my comments, was with TERF, TERFy, TERF, 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 like, and he did it a number of times. It was just ridiculous. And then some other woman that was commenting, and she's like, oh, I'm pretty sure this person is actually a man. like a woman couldn't possibly hold these opinions and speak like this. It must be a man. Like, it's just ridiculous what goes on social media.
I've actually noticed a lot less resistance in social media comment sections. The more emboldened I get, the less resistance, because TERF doesn't shut me up. And people, you know, even 2 years ago, call someone a TERF and they would be no platformed. But now it seems that, you know, you still get an opportunity to talk around that and point out the fact that they're only calling you a TERF to no platform you because they don't actually have any argument, or they don't have any rational explanation. So if you can just, you know, get past your whoever's, you know, trauma about being called a slur, and you actually hang in there and say, well, no, actually, you know, I believe that there are men and women and humans can't change sex. There's really no comeback to that because it's a fact.
That's it. It's just mind-boggling. I know I say that a lot, but it really is. I just don't.
Yes, the whole thing's insane. Like, we're speaking like we're nuts because none of it makes sense. Yeah. And all the whole thing is follow the money, all of it.
Yeah,
and the money.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I find that really ironic. I think that's the word. I know everyone argues about the use of that word, but anyway, ironic that here we have this generation of kids that are anti-capitalist and anarchists and communists, and they can't see that this is driven by capitalism. Their gender identity is a product that they've bought into. It's just, well, I don't know what it's going to take to snap these kids out of it.
Yeah, well, as some people who follow me on Twitter know, that I studied sociology at university. So I've kind of quite a few years of trying to understand class analysis. Now, I went to uni 100 years ago, but, you know, I still have a sort of a background in that sort of stuff. And, you know, when I first got back on Twitter, because I was off there for years, and I got back on there at the start of last year, I would get so much crap from trans activists about, oh, you know, you're not a socialist, you're not a Marxist, blah, blah, blah. But the second I put sociology in my bio, nobody argues with me. It's fabulous. It's great, because they understand that I understand class analysis, and that women are a class and they are an oppressed class, and we live in a patriarchy. Now, you don't need to study sociology to understand that. You need like year 11 understanding of politics, you know, and yet people who call themselves socialists and Marxists are, you know, just completely denying reality and denying the fact that women are a class. It's crazy, particularly from the unionists. Like that's I get really offended when you know, the unionists are going on about the working class and they're not acknowledging women's role in that. It makes me so mad.
Yeah. The other thing with Marxist analysis is that it's looking at material reality of who has what resources are available for a city or a town.
Oh, sorry.
Music. But it's like material reality. That is what Marxism is looking at. And who has enough food? But you can't acknowledge the material reality of male and female bodies. It's just so upside down.
And the lefties all spruiking for big pharma too, you know, a massive multinational, you know, the richest thing in the world are big pharmaceutical companies, and here's all these like anti-capitalists spruiking for them, you know, and encouraging small children to take hormones and have surgery as part of the you know, big pharmaceutical push. I mean, it's insane and hypocritical, just incredibly hypocritical.
Yeah. Look, on a positive note, LGB Alliance UK have started uploading the sessions and speeches from their recent conference. And last night I watched Alison Bailey's keynote speech, and it was just fantastic, really great. Have you watched any of them yet?
I did. I watched 3/4 of Alison's speech, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
What a wonderful conference.
Yep. Watching that, I was sort of thinking that, you know, if someone was willing to take the time to sit and watch 50 minutes of her speaking, that would be a good tool for peak transing people, I think.
Yeah. All the people that call us transphobes and homophobes should be paying close attention to LGB Alliance.
Mm-hmm. So that was good. But in other news this week, the sports thing, International Olympics Committee, look, I'm sure there'll be more written and said about it in the days to come. But they've gone the complete opposite direction to reining this shit in. And they've now said that, actually, we're not going to look at testosterone levels in trans women anymore. And it's like, fuck's sake, like, you know, that was a little barrier that kept some trans women out of women's sports, and now it's just opening it up even further. Like, what the hell is going on? What are they thinking?
They're not thinking. It's money. There's someone who's paying them to have these. There's some financial incentive for them to scrap all protections against women, and until we find out who, you know, I mean, that's the answer. That somebody, there's a money train going from trans organisations into the Olympics.
Look, I think
it has to be, because otherwise it makes completely no sense. It's not an ideological stance. There has to be some material benefit for them, because the Olympics is finance. It's not about sport. It's about money.
It's a big business. Yeah,
it is.
Look,
yeah, I think it's horrible. It's horrible for, you know, us mums and dads whose kids want to play sport, because what happens in the Olympics is going to trickle down to our children's sporting grounds, where our kids are going to go off to footy training or netball or whatever they do, and have to share their bathrooms with kids of the opposite sex. It's not on.
Yeah.
And also, you know, and participate against kids of the opposite sex. That's not fair.
Yeah. Look, I understand that professional female athletes are in a really difficult position with this. They stand to lose their careers if they speak out against this. But it's time. Women, female athletes need to band together and say, no, we're just not going to compete if you're going to continue with this insanity. It needs to happen, and it needs to happen before the next Olympics.
If enough women speak out on this stuff, either female athletes or anyone, if enough women speak out against this BS, things will change. It's just that everybody is holding back, expecting somebody else to do their dirty work for them. You have to speak up. And, they can't dox everybody. If people are only losing their jobs because not enough people are speaking up. Now, I understand, why people are hesitant, but there has to be a time and a place where people step up. I mean, you don't want to compare it to Nazi Germany, but there are comparisons. People didn't speak up when the Jews were being dragged from their homes because they were afraid. They were afraid for themselves.
Yeah.
Now, that people say, oh, how dare you compare that to the Holocaust? That, my grandmother was dragged from her home. I've always been someone who's been brought up to speak up. And this shit scares me.
Yeah.
It scares me for my kids. And I'm getting quite emotional thinking about it. Like it's, I can't understand why more women do not speak up. If someone like Anna can speak up, then, if you're younger and you're prime of your life and you don't have kids and all you are worried about is your stupid job,
Be the next Maya Forstater. Be the Maya Forstater for us here in Australia. Like it's so.
Tell them to fuck their pronouns if they tell you to put it in your email signature. Those little things. If you don't speak out completely and say I'm a massive TERF and this trans stuff's bullshit, if you don't do that, tiny little refusals. You don't put your pronouns in your bio. You say no, I don't. I don't really want to do that, and explain why. These tiny little gestures. If you can't go the full, full on and just out TERF yourself. It's so frustrating for me. I mean, I've been doxed. I've lost income because of my beliefs. It's worth it.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
Look, the worst that's happened to me is I lost my longest friend, a friend that I'd known forever. He's a bisexual man, and would make jokes of, oh, let's have a girls' night, stuff like that. I thought he understood feminism. I thought he understood what women go through. When I had real difficulties at work because of being a female and being sexually harassed and all sorts of other shit, I went to him and I talked to him about it, and I got him to read through a document that I was submitting around sexual harassment, and he was so supportive. And then when I mentioned J.K. Rowling, he said, oh no, we don't agree with J.K. Rowling. The fact he used the word we, like it's this collective of hive mind that he's bought into. And
it is though, it's a freaking cult.
It is. Like I found that really interesting that he used the word we. And then it just got out of hand. And when I said, what about all these women in Australia that have PTSD because of male violence? You'd want to just let males into their change rooms and bathrooms. And his response was, oh, but women are violent too. I was just like, fuck off. No. That was the end of our friendship when he said that. I just couldn't believe that he would resort to, this is, a left-wing man, is into Marxism, is into Lacan psychology, very intelligent, understands human psychology. And on this, he's telling me that he's bringing out a men's rights activist talking point that women are just as violent as men, when the statistics clearly show that is not the case. I just couldn't believe it. It's not done with you.
I hope he's watching this.
Yeah, fuck you, Chris.
Oh, geez, we've been a bit man-bashy today, but God, they deserve it. Men have got a lot less to lose from this.
That's right.
And they also need to speak up. Now, I've lost a few Facebook friends over my stance, because I was pretty deep into the left. I was pretty, and I still am. Like, I identify as an anti-fascist. I'm not anti-far, but I'm an anti-fascist. I'm quite outspoken about my political beliefs, and I'm still fairly deep in there. And I still have quite a few friends who are on the left. Mm-hmm. Do you reckon they're speaking up in my defence? No, they're not. Do you reckon they're speaking up when, you know, people post ridiculous untruths that, you know, male rapists are female? No, they're not. They're keeping their traps shut. Yeah. Now, they're not going to lose their job about it. They're not going to get demonised and called the TERFs. They're not going to get death and rape threats. They still won't, they won't speak up, just like they don't speak up when women are sexually harassed, just like they don't, you know, call out their mates when they're being sexist pigs. And it, you know, and doing the sort of behavior that leads to sexual assault. They don't call their mates out for, you know, dehumanizing women on porn. They laugh about it. They think it's hilarious. You know, men have got to step up. They've got to step up against this crap, because they all know the difference between a man and a woman when they want to sleep with one.
Yep.
They all know.
Yep. Well said. I feel like we should cover some of the news that's been happening this week.
Is it good news? Because we've been a bit ranty so far today. It's all good news.
Well, Senator Claire Chandler has launched a fundraiser to support her efforts to get the Sex Discrimination Act changed in order to protect girls and women's sport.
I put $20 in. If everyone puts in $20, she'll have her target. $20.
Yeah, and look, that's how the UK have done it. Everyone's putting in £20, which I think is about 40 Australian dollars, roughly. So, you know, just please jump onto her website and give what you can. Every bit counts, and you know, we need this to happen. And it's funny that in the week that the International Olympics Committee announces that it's going to be even easier for men to compete as women, Senator Claire Chandler has launched this fundraiser. That's sums it up, I think. So that's happened. This company Salesforce has been in the news.
Ooh.
Bring it up. So they're a software company. I think they do a lot of software for telemarketing companies and call centers. They probably pay their employees on average about $21 an hour. That's my guess. So maybe they, as a result of paying such low wages, they're able to afford this shit. But they've just announced that for Australian and New Zealand employees, they will be offered a benefits package worth $55,000 to cover treatments such as gender affirmation surgeries and hormonal therapy. It also covers hair removal, hair transplant. So if you're a balding trans woman, these guys are going to pay for your hair transplant, and $500 to go towards a new wardrobe. And I don't know why they need this, but $1,000 to help employees navigate the legal hurdles of confirming their gender identity. Now, in Victoria, isn't it just a stat deck to change?
Yeah, it's a stat deck. Yeah, and they'll change your birth certificate. You don't even need a doctor's letter. Now, do you think a woman who had polycystic ovaries and, you know, had a beard or, you know, other hair where she didn't want it, do you think she'd be eligible for money for hair removal? You know, do you think a woman who had to have a mastectomy for medical reasons would be eligible for the financial, you know, relief?
And
I don't.
Does Salesforce give time off for menopause, miscarriage, or you know, endometriosis related?
Even having a baby.
Just crazy. Like,
it is
freaking lost.
This goes back to what we talked about last week, though. You know how Melbourne Uni's going to, you know, have got this new $100,000 a year role for affirming gender and doing all this, you know, gender positive stuff. I bet you anything Salesforce is in this money stream with Acon and everybody else, where if they do trans friendly stuff, they get some sort of incentive or some tick or some financial payoff, because otherwise it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I reckon every single one of these companies, governments, orgs, NGOs that are involved with, you know, implementing this full-blown grooming for the trans cult, there will be financial links between all of them. I can guarantee it.
You're probably right. Yeah. The whole thing has made me think about when I went for a job at the Australian Taxation Office, but they outsourced their call centre work to another company. I can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head. Shit. But this company also runs the Manus Island Detention Centre.
Oh.
So they're this huge global multinational conglomerate going on, getting their hand in all sorts of different things. Serco, that's what they're called, Serco.
Oh, yuck. Yeah.
I didn't get the job because I had joined the recruitment process too late and they'd already filled all the spots. That's apparently the only reason I didn't get it, thank God. But a friend of mine did get it. And, you know, like I said, with Salesforce, Serco are paying something like $21, $22 an hour. They keep as many people on as casuals as they can.
Yeah. So
you've got no permanent like job security. They're just, you know, capitalist pigs. But the thing about a call center is there's not that face-to-face thing. You're not looking, it's not a customer service role where you have to worry about your appearance. So when I went for the job interview, it was like a group job interview, and there was a trans woman in there as well. And so call centers are a really safe place for trans women to get work, which is great. Because, you know, it shouldn't be that trans women have to be in prostitution or, you know, the pornography, all these, you know, which has for a long time been sort of where society has pushed them to. So call centers, really safe place for a trans woman to get a job. Thus, Salesforce are going to recruit as many trans women as they possibly can by offering a $55,000 perk. Just crazy, but I think that's maybe part of what's going on there with Salesforce as well. Yeah.
There'll be something in there.
Yeah. So that and I don't know if you saw this one, but there was a trans woman in Perth who transitioned at the age of 41. So from that we can deduce that he's probably got autogynephilia, transitioning late in life. And he's a surfer and he wants...
Oh!
Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
He wants the surfing rules changed so that he can compete against women, but he's not doing it because he wants to take over. Like, it's just the number of lies in that article, like,
and they refer to him as she through the whole thing.
Yeah, and it was all just really positive for trans women and trans women trying to change the world. It was in Perth now, on their online website. I actually clicked on the author. It was a weird name, like a foreign name. I thought it was Indian maybe, and I clicked on it thinking it would be a man, and it was this woman. It's like, it is so frustrating that women are largely driving this. Like, you were talking about left-wing men before. I think a lot of men are just kicking back, watching this debate unfold, and it's like this virtual mud wrestling competition for them.
It is. Or jelly wrestling.
Yeah. It's just entertainment for them. Meanwhile,
pitting women against each other, but it's privileged women. It's always privileged women selling us out.
That's it. The woman of this article, full makeup, like her profile picture was like that of an influencer, Just
someone who really got my goat, domestic violence campaigner Jess Hill wrote a book about the impact of domestic violence on women. And it was a bloody good book. Guess who has been saying trans women are women?
She has.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy days.
She's a journalist. She is never, ever going to go to a domestic violence service with no roof over her head with 3 kids in tow.
Yeah.
And be expected to share a space with men.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
It's a luxury opinion.
It is. That's a luxury belief. This whole trans women and women is a luxury belief. You just 5 minutes on Twitter.
Yeah.
And you can see that.
And another thing that came up, you just reminded me of, the city of Port Phillip, very affluent area, lots of money. I'm sure that city council rakes in a shitload of money with their rates. They have advertised for someone to implement their LGBT action plan. It's a 6-month contract, and it's paying, I think it was around about 95,000 a year.
Woo.
And it used to be, LGB, that's a good thing, but as soon as they tack the T on the end, it's going to be bad for women. You just know it.
It's going to be a TQ plus. Everything is TQ plus, and Q is anyone.
Yeah.
Plus is anyone else. So the LG and B have been hung up to dry.
Yep, totally. Oh, it's good to get it out.
I know, and that's it. I'm angry. I'm really, really, really angry about this.
Yeah.
And I try not to be, because I want people to come over to our cause, and I want to, sort of give a positive perception of us, not as angry women. But we're way past being polite now.
Yep.
Even on social media, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to use correct pronouns for people. I might in my personal life, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend I'm not angry. I'm not going to pretend that this is some smiley, happy thing. The positives that come out of having our political beliefs are the friendships and the camaraderie with other women and with gay men and lesbians and bisexual people who have the same fears that we do.
Yep.
Now, that's been the best thing. Like, most of my followers on social media are either feminists or gay men, which is ridiculous, because people think I'm a homophobe because I'm a transphobe, and it's not true. But, we have a right to be angry.
Yep.
And it's good to have an outlet for that.
Yep.
And as much as this is a positive movement where we have, where we support each other and we have camaraderie and we can protest together and we can fight this fight together, and it's all great, and you should come and we can have a big group hug. This is also a place where we can just let it rip.
Yeah.
And we can fight.
Yeah.
And, women are constantly told, you're not allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to fight. You're not allowed to swear. Well, in this girl gang, you can.
Yep.
And we got to do it. I'm going to feel a bit self-conscious after this, and when we put this up, and if I dare to watch it back, that I was so angry and emotional. But why do I feel self-conscious about that? Because I've been conditioned not to be like that. And that is exactly how this trans women and women bullshit has got to be where it is today. I mean, why do you think someone like Rex Landy is so popular? Because she's out there.
Yep.
She's out there saying it, what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
She's angry, and we have a right to be angry. I mean, this is despicable. What the Olympics, what all of these people are doing is despicable.
I mean,
and it's gaslighting. It's terrifying. If you really think about it, it's terrifying gaslighting on a societal level.
What gets me is girls and women have already been raped as a result of these self-ID laws. Karen White in the UK is a prime example. Trans woman put in a women's prison. She was on remand for rape, sexual assault, grievous bodily harm, and they put her in a fucking women's prison. So that's already happened. The girl in Loudoun County, Virginia, USA, raped in the girls' toilets at school by a boy wearing a fucking skirt.
What about old mate Dean in Melbourne here? Dean Laidley, the former AFL coach, convicted domestic violence perpetrator and stalker with multiple victims. And he's now a poor, vulnerable trans woman, that the police are picking on because they put pictures of him online. I mean, seriously, he's no victim and he's not a woman either.
Yep. It's already happened. It's going to happen more. What scares me is that no one's going to do anything about it because it's just women getting raped and people don't give a shit because it happens every second of every day around the world.
That's right. I mean, how many convictions get even to the police? Most people don't report assault. Yeah. And when I was in that room with a whole bunch of women and there was a man in there, trans identifying man, and I reported it, I was the only one that reported it. And there was 30 women there.
Yeah.
And I was told, oh, no one else complained. It's ridiculous.
Stand up for yourselves. Come on.
Yeah, stand up. All of us. We'll stand up together. You don't have to do it by yourself. We'll stand up together.
I think what's missing is, I sort of wanted to ask Anna about this, but we didn't get into it. I think back in the 70s, it was a much easier for those women to speak amongst themselves, even about the oppression they're facing from men, the bullshit they put up with at work, the bullshit they put up with in their marriages. I think it was much easier for them to speak about it because it was like suddenly this, the dam wall burst and it was okay to, like, we can talk about this and we have to talk about this. But over the decades since the 70s, this pretend thing is happening that we're being told that women and men have equal rights and so everything's fine now, but it's not. Like, women are still facing this shit at work. We're still being bashed at home by our husbands or boyfriends, but now it's like harder to speak out about it. And I guess men's rights activists have come up with all these reasons why, oh no, it's actually, that's not happening, but it is happening, and women need to start speaking again, just about the little sexist comments that go on at work and leading into bigger stuff.
Well, what's happened at the same time as all this stuff. Women's have been making gains in the workplace. They've been making gains in education. They've been making tangible gains in lots of areas of their lives. But then along comes porn and the internet, where men can get together and talk about women, and and things like Instagram, where women are objectified to some ridiculous level. People like the Kardashians, who initially became famous through revenge porn. And women go, oh, she got famous through revenge porn, maybe I can too. This whole pornification of our culture has happened at the same time that women have made these gains, and we've gone back down the slide, like gone, back into this regressive time where gender roles are rigid and enforced, and we're having doors shut on us. We're having our employment opportunities taken away. And, and we're talking as white women, we're talking about, from our own privilege, we're talking about this stuff. Can you imagine women from minorities who are watching this all unfold, seeing women like us getting doors slammed in our faces because of this trans stuff, and thinking, well, what voice do they have? They have none. Yeah. They have less and less and less. And all these people up there going, oh, all faiths, Black Lives Matter. What a load of bullshit. Men are at the top of that heap. Trans identifying men are the most like marginalized and vulnerable people according to everybody at the moment. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Absolutely freaking ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I think we're coming up on an hour. So
we've been ranting for an hour. Oh. Yeah.
There is just one last thing I'd like to finish with. Graham Linehan and some others have picked the 19th of December this year as Gender Critical Coming Out Day. So there is an opportunity there to, you know, show your solidarity, say what you really think, tweet, make a Facebook post, do what you can, approach your employer, say, I'm not doing pronouns in my bio signature, do what you can, say what you can. But they've picked that day because J.K. Rowling tweeted her Maya Forstater tweet in support of Maya on that day 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember.
Yeah.
So get involved if you can. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about that next week.
Yeah, and I'd also like to talk about how a lot of the people overseas, you know, really have to get behind us Aussies, because we're just we're just starting off in this whole public turfery, and we really need their support. And that's something I'd like to talk about next week, because, you know, we're kind of a bit in an echo chamber here in Australia, and we do a lot of support for UK and US themes, and yet, you know, we could do with a boost. So yeah, we'll talk about that too. And if anyone's got any suggestions of what they'd like us to talk about, let us know. I don't read the comments because I don't want to read bad things about myself. But you'll read them.
All right. Well, good to see you, Ange, and thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for letting me have a rant. I'm feeling rather punchy now. I've got to go to work.
Hope we've fired everyone up. All right.
Yeah. See you next week. Thank you.
See you next week, everyone. Thanks. Bye.